On behalf of the California Lawyers Association, I want to congratulate Judge Bobbi Tillmon for receiving the Aranda Award. Issued for the very first time in 1999, the Aranda Award is named after Judge Benjamin Aranda III, who was known for his tireless efforts to promote fairness and access in the courts. Judge Tillmon embodies these ideals of fairness, equity, and inclusion, and has demonstrated a long-term commitment to improving access to our courts. CLA is proud to honor Judge Tillmon for her public service, but even more importantly, for her time and her heart. She serves as a mentor to many legal professionals and is a tireless advocate for the unhoused, women, and people of color. At this time, this critical time in our society, I cannot think of a more deserving jurist who exemplifies the tenets of the Aranda Award. Congratulations and Godspeed, Judge Tillmon.
On behalf of the California Judges Association, I would like to extend a hearty congratulations to my dear friend and colleague, Judge Bobbi Tillmon, for being the 2022 recipient of the Aranda Access to Justice Award. Judge Tillmon opened up the first homeless court here in Los Angeles, and she was even personally responsible for making sandwiches and taking pictures of the people inside her courtroom. She is compassionate, she is patient, she is loving, and she exemplifies all of the things that we want our judges to be, what we want our judges to do. So on behalf of CJA, congratulations, Judge Tillmon, for this well-deserved honor.
Judge Tillmon has served on the Los Angeles Superior Court for nearly 30 years. In her role as both a commissioner and a judge, she has presided over nearly every case type, and she has served on numerous committees within the court, including dedicating herself to issues relating to the unhoused. She looks at any situation as something that is much bigger than herself. And I think what that breaks down to is she cares about our collective future and our collective success. Every year, Judge Tillmon welcomes young people of color into her chambers and her courtroom and to our court to work with her. She's been doing that for decades. She really is the epitome of a role model. We are so very lucky to have her. And I can't think of a better person to be recognized with this particular recognition.
So on behalf of Judicial Council, thank you so much, Judge Tillmon, for all of the work that you have accomplished over the years of your profession. Clearly a deserving recipient of the Aranda Access to Justice Award. The work that you have accomplished and that we have now all learned about collectively, it just really demonstrates why we do what we do. So thank you so much on behalf of all of Judicial Council.
Thank you so much. I feel honored to be here, and the first thing I'd like to do is point out the beautiful shoes on Judge Tillmon over here. You can tell a lot of person about their shoes. She is an amazing person. She embodies this award. From the start of her career, she has embodied the access to justice, for which the Aranda Award stands for. I will say just a couple things. I know we have a time limit here. It's interesting because when we were looking at the applications that came in for the award, one thing that stood out to me was that whether it was older or younger or newer attorneys, it didn't matter. Everybody had the same thing to say about her, that she was an amazing woman, and that's demonstrated by the fact that her family is here to support her, and I'm just honored to be here with you. And there's a quote that was somebody reminded me of this week when I was asking somebody for advice about something. And the quote's by Jackie Robinson, one of my I won't say my mentors. I wish he was one of my mentors, but a guy that I've looked up to for years. And maybe that's curse words here in the Bay Area, being that he was a Dodger. But he had this great line where he would say, "A life is not important except in the impact that it has on other lives." And I think that Judge Tillmon embodies that. So, Judge Tillmon, thank you.
So on behalf of the California Judges Association, we're delighted to be able to co-host and co-sponsor and co-present this particular important award, along with the Judicial Council, to a very distinguished judge and a great human being. You've heard all about it. I love these videos. You know, you hear all about the people and what they've accomplished and who they are through the video. So I'm not going to dwell on that. You've heard all about it. She's a great human being. But I want to tell you stuff you don't know about Bobbi Tillmon. And so I met her family this evening. What a wonderful family you have. You really do. Family tells you a lot about the person. So I talked to the family. I said, tell me something about Bobbi Tillmon that nobody knows. So that was a real stumper for them, to be honest with you. They said she's an open book. In fact, I asked her, tell me something about yourself that nobody knows. And she says, gee, I'm an open book. So they both told me the same, but I bored in, I kept probing, I kept asking. And so I've got a couple of things to tell you. First of all, she's a vegetarian. Okay, so take that for what it's worth. So she does no harm to the environment. But more importantly, she hates velvet. I don't know what that's about, actually, but doesn't like the touch of velvet, so now you know, don't buy her velvet. And she also did something really remarkable. How many of you out here have ever collected Barbies? I know you have, David Yamasaka. Anyone else? Okay, so apparently Mattel makes career Barbies. And so Judge Tillmon took it upon herself to contact the Mattel Corporation. She doesn't take no for an answer. She convinced them to create a career Barbie, which is a female judge Barbie. I think there's a black career Barbie judge. There's a Latinx. There's a Caucasian career Barbie judge, just to show folks, particularly girls and young women and women, that there is a career path into something that, 50 years ago may have been unobtainable. So that's the kind of human being she is. I think Judge Rubin would join me in saying, this is a mensch. So.
Thank you for that, those, I should say, introductions. I'm probably one of the few people in this room who actually had the pleasure of meeting Judge Aranda. I met him around 1995, 96, when I was a Superior Court Commissioner. And his life's work, it wasn't just about court users, but extended to promoting access and fairness to the bench, staff members, as well as justice partners. I can really identify with the aspiration to promote access and fairness. You might say I get it honestly, as the concept was passed down to me from my parents, more accurately, through me from my parents. My mother demanded access to the hospital where I was born, and she and her doctor conspired to integrate the maternity ward of the hospital by making me the first Black baby born in this hospital. Although there was no fairness, because although I was allowed to be born there, they actually put my mother on the men's ward. They would not put her on the women's maternity ward. And they actually put a partition between me and the other babies. When my parents demanded access for me and my older sister and brother to integrate an elementary school, I became the first Black child to matriculate through 6th grade at that school. But there was no fairness in the way I was treated. and how I was not allowed to participate in some of the activities, actually banned from some of the school activities. And one of two Black girls to integrate a private high school where I attended before moving to the Los Angeles area. Doors were open, where there was access to an excellent education, and I began to find my voice to speak about fairness issues that I encountered at that school. I used my voice when I moved with my parents to California at a new high school to demand that Martin Luther King's birthday be celebrated as a national holiday. I used my voice in college to participate in sit-ins and teach-ins and to contest the war. I trained as a peer counselor to help inform my peers about resources to give them access to materials and people who could help them survive the college experience. In law school, I was the first Far West Regional Director of BALSA and spent a lot of time on the picket line protesting the Bobbi decision, which was about access to higher education and fairness in the selection process, and especially how it impacted people of color. As a lawyer, I helped to develop the first child support guidelines so there would be more equity in how support was determined and represented parents who did not know how to access the court system to get their fair share of support for their children. I also represented battered women, where I volunteered time to educate women on how to gain access so they could get their fair share. I served on statewide national committees and task force that examine access to the courts. As a judicial officer, I chaired the Access and Fairness Committee for several years in the LA Superior Court, served as the Judicial Council's Advisory Council on Providing Access and Fairness due to the appointment by the chief, and other organizational activities to promote access and fairness. I even sat on the State Bar's council, as it was called at the time, on access and fairness, and chaired the Judicial Committee. I did volunteer to, it actually wasn't the first homeless court, it was probably the second homeless court in Los Angeles County, so that participants could have access to the court system and to try to eliminate some of the barriers that they face. I say all of this not to convince you that I know a little something about access and fairness, the things that Judge Aranda stood for, but to solicit each one of you in your various capacities to seek justice and to promote access to the courts and to make sure that the system is fair. We must not compromise. Our collective efforts are necessary to make sure that we maintain a form where justice is done and access remains open to the public and the counsel that serve the public. I challenge everyone to be the continuum of change that is required. In conclusion, I want to recognize my family members. I have my daughter present, Morgan, who's a Los Angeles County District Attorney, and my son, Ryan, who's an investment banker. And they traveled from Los Angeles to be with me here today. So thank you very much. They keep me grounded. It's important. And I am very humbled by receiving this award. Thank you to the Judicial Council. Thank you to the California Judges Association, and thank you to the California Lawyers Association for this recognition. Thank you very much.